In this episode, we laminate up the lower ballast keel, and colder temperatures call for warming solutions. Hi, I'm Bill England of the Ambler Odysseys YouTube channel, where I am vlogging the build of a George Buehler-designed 48-foot wooden troller yacht here in my Summerside, Prince Edward Island, Canada backyard boat shed. With the frames built, we are on to laminating the keel. When she is completed, we will sail the seven seas in search of adventure. The lower ballast keel averages 28 feet in length and has 8 layers of 1.5 by 9 larch. In episode 16, I go over milling up the keel timbers and mention that milling the 12-foot lengths of larch was a special kind of fun, and here's why. A 12-foot 2x10 rough-cut larch timber weighs in at about 60 pounds, 27 kilograms, so manhandling them in a garage-sized workshop is awkward. I built a 10-foot long wooden bench to extend the jointer in-feed table. To extend the outfeed table, I simply used an adjustable height roller for the timber to feed onto and carry the weight as I fed it across the jointer blades. Typically, I would do 1 or 2 passes before turning the timber 180 degrees to be able to work the other side of the face. This back and forth would continue until I had a flat, smooth face and edge. Next is over to the table saw to remove the opposite rough cut edge and take the timber down to its final 9-inch width. I hand fed the timber into the blades and used the roller for it to be fed onto. This is what happens when the roller is a bit too close to the saw table. It's all about finding the center of balance. And finally, a few passes, and a few passes more, and maybe a few more passes to get the timber down to its final 1.5 inch thickness. For 17 layers of the entire length of the ballast keel, I made a lot of shaving. At one point I had up to 50 bags of shavings, so I sold them. People used them for their chicken and rabbit runs and mulch for the garden. A spreadsheet helped determine the total amount of rough stock needed for each keel subassembly. Here you see the timbers in each of the 17 layers of the ballast keel. A total of 533 linear feet plus or minus, of 2x10 stock into the ballast keel. Another visual cue was used as each timber was laminated up. I like using these visual diagrams to keep track of my progress. The first layer of timber were laid out and the overall length and position on the cradle was double and triple checked. Easier now than after 17 layers. Laminating up the ballast keel. I've got the first of 17 layers and half the second layer laminated on. I glued that up this morning, so I'm just about to take those clamps off. Things are getting a little cramped, believe it or not, in the boat shed. I've got the raw larch there that I'm using for the keel, and from earlier in the summer we have the 4-foot, the stem knee, and some dead wood. So this morning I'm going to finish gluing down the second layer. Get the clamps all lined up, ready to go. Everything's dry fit. Refer back to episode 16 for info on the Casco fin, resorcinol-based epoxy resin used for the Ballast Keel lamination. And here we go! Sundays included working into the sunset. Up forward, starting with the third layer, I have to plan for the notch that will eventually fit the forefoot. So just to describe what I'm doing here, taking in consideration the notch that I have to cut out. So this is the forward part of the ballast keel, and I recall just from the diagram, the keel structure, that two layers, the two bottom layers, extend the full length, and then starting at this point, a notch has to be created that goes the full length of both the bottom, the lower and upper ballast keel. So through 15, the keel will be, it's a total of 17 layers of 1.5 inch. So 15 layers at a 13-degree angle. So what I did was I measured where the angle started from the forward part, drew a line, and then measured that angle off. And what I do is as I laminate each layer, because we're up to 5 layers, is I put a nail here at that point where the notch starts, and then as I add a layer, I just lay the string along and mark it, and then use a straight edge to connect the dots, essentially. See, everything goes back to kindergarten, connecting the dots, remember that? And I leave probably about at least ½ inch proud out from where the angle moves on to the next layer, because you always want a bit of a fudge factor. My plan is, once I have the 8 layers of the lower keel done, I'll start shaping this notch with the forefoot. And then it's going to be a matter of lots of trial and error as I shave out this notch the best I can. In hindsight, I shouldn't have waited until the 8th layer was on before I hollowed out that notch, because there was not a lot of space to get the tools in to clean it out. Encountered my one and only delamination on the forward timber of the 7th layer. My first delamination. So I noticed when I took the clamps off, a few hours after I took the clamps off this piece, this is the forward piece of the 7th layer of the ballast keel, the boards had separated, and didn't take too much effort to actually lift the top board off. And I think what happened was I laminated later in the afternoon, and the temperature was good. It was about 20 degrees, but it probably dropped to about 5 degrees overnight. So during that curing period, which can take 6 to 8 hours, it got too cold. So the chemical reaction that forms the bond wasn't able to chemically react. So what I did is I just I sanded it down smooth, and we'll try it again. Soon after, I finished laminating the 8 layers of the lower ballast keel. What do you think, Beanie? Is that a good day's work? Are we doing a good day's work? Yeah. Yeah. Good day's work, Dad. Now, I thought this would be a good day to raise the keel. Now, this ballast keel does not lay perfectly flat. It actually rises at an angle to where it meets the forefoot. Now, this is drawn from the plans. At frame 20, the base of the keel, and this is frame 20 right here. So at frame 20, the base of the keel is approximately 1 foot off the baseline. So if the top of these cradles represent the baseline, then the bottom of the keel here is roughly 1 foot above that baseline. This will also allow me to fit this forefoot into the notch here. Don't worry, she got shored up better than what it looks like here. With the beautiful Canadian winter now upon the build progress, I added a heating tent to allow the lamination of the upper ballast keel to continue. I also found out why the instructions of a portable heater say not to use with extension cords. Nothing like the smell of burning rubber to get your attention. After hardwiring an electrical outlet near the cradle, I also upped the heating structure from a tent to a hut. The heating hut made for better overall heating circulation to allow the epoxy to cure evenly. And slowly but surely, the ballast keel layers continued to build up, as will be seen in the next episode.
Thanks for joining me for this episode. For a front row seat on this do-it-yourself boat build project, please like, subscribe, and be notified on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to the Ambler Odysseys. Till next time, toodly-doo.